Hello guys. Now in this video, let's discuss about cervical factors of infertility. See, what is that cervical factor of infertility, guys? It's the cervical mucus. See, for proper fertilization or for the proper movement of the sperm via cervix, it's very important that the mucosal nature of the cervix, which should be very good. What does I mean by? See, for example, here cervical factor of infertility can be due to abnormal or deficient mucus. See, the abnormality or deficient mucus can cause infertility in the female. See, why there is this abnormal or deficient mucus, guys? For example, please concentrate. In infections, see, whenever there is an infection like cervicitis, whenever there is cervicitis, where can you see cervicitis, guys? In vaginitis. For example, whenever there is vaginitis because of a gonorrhea or chlamydia, see the vaginitis, because of ascending infection, you can have a cervicitis, especially seen with the gonorrhea. So in gonorrhea and chlamydial infections, you will be having cervicitis that can lead to abnormal mucus secretion in the cervix that can cause infertility. Or use of anti-estrogens. For example, whenever you are using anti-estrogens like clomiphene citrate for ovulation induction. See, this clomiphene citrate can be used in PCOS, right? Or it can be used in a female who is suffering with the infertility. See, a female is suffering with ovarian causes of infertility that she is not ovulating. You can give clomiphene citrate to her so that she can ovulate. But important point is, using of this anti-estrogens will decrease the mucus production in the cervix. Why? Because in the cervix and vagina, the mucosal production, especially in the cervix, okay, vagina doesn't have the cervical glands, right? So in the cervix, the mucosal secretions are depend on estrogens. So whenever you are using anti-estrogens, such anti-estrogens decrease the mucus production in the cervix. So whenever there is no proper amount of mucus in the cervix, sperms cannot swim, so that they cannot meet the ovum. That can lead to infertility. So what is the treatment option available? You can give estrogens, ethinyl estradiol, simply replace the estrogens to her. How can you treat the infections? Antibiotics. In the same way, if she is having anti-sperm antibodies in her cervix, what does I mean by in her cervical mucus, there are antibodies which are against the partner's sperms. She is developing antibodies against the sperms. So how we can know that whether she is producing antibodies against the sperms or not? So the investigative test which can be done is known as a post-coital test or Sims test or Hahner test. See, what is this post-coital test? You should ask the partners, male and female, to engage in the coital activity. Okay, let them participate in the coital activity and ask them to come to you. Okay, so what you have to check? You have to check the cervical mucus. What exactly you are checking? The receptivity of the cervical mucus with the sperms. How the cervical mucus is receiving the sperms. Okay, see, in the post-coital test, you are accessing the receptivity of the cervical mucus and the sperms. That's what we have discussed. At least in this post-coital test, you need to see 15 to 20 motile sperms per high power field. Okay, if everything is normal, you need to see 15 to 20 motile sperms per the high power field, and sperms should show progressive motility. Okay, so the sperm should be progressively motile. Okay, they should be progressively motile towards the uterus. From there, they have to go through the fallopian tube. So in the microscopy, in the slides, all that sperm should be progressively motile. But whenever there is presence of these antibodies, anti-sperm antibodies, do you know what will happen? The sperms will show rotatory or shaking movement, or sometimes they can be completely immotile. So with this post-coital test, you can assess whether there is presence of antibodies against the sperms or not. If there are antibodies, the sperms will show rotatory or shaking movement. If there are no anti-sperm antibodies, the sperms will be progressively motile. Now, how we are gonna manage this anti-sperm antibodies? It's very simple. Ask the partners to use a barrier method for at least 3 months. Okay, the male should have to use 3 months of like barrier methods like condoms. Now whenever they are using these barrier methods for 3 months, we are expecting that the antibodies in the cervical mucus of the female are gonna reduce, and also give corticosteroid to the female partner. Okay, why? Because corticosteroids are immunosuppressants, so these antibodies are also a part of immune system, right? So whenever you give these corticosteroids, you are expecting that these antibodies are gonna go down, and you can do intrauterine insemination. What simply you are doing? Uterine insemination. This is the uterus and this is the cervix. Here is the vagina. The antibodies are present in the cervical mucus. So if they simply participate in normal intercourse, the sperms are gonna leak into vagina, and from there the sperms are gonna leak into go through the cervix. But what you are doing? You are doing intrauterine insemination, means which you are going to directly release the sperms into the uterus, means you are bypassing the cervix. Okay, so intrauterine insemination can be done in these patients who are having these anti-sperm antibodies. Important point, guys, intrauterine insemination is the best method for treating cervical factor of infertility and unexplained infertility. Guys, cervical factor of infertility should be treated by intrauterine insemination. Tubal factors of infertility should be treated by in vitro fertilization. Ovarian factors of infertility should be treated by ovulation inducing drugs. Okay, very simple, right? Okay, guys. So these are some important points about cervical factors of infertility. In the next video, we'll see uterine factors of infertility and also luteal phase defect. Thank you.